which sort of obeys a linear response, in the sense that when you give some kind of an external excitation, the system responds linearly. That is a very crucial sort of assumption in whatever we are doing here. And the response typically is divided. I mean, it has a real part, it has an imaginary part, and there is because it's a complex response. Essentially, the response is complex, and because the response is complex, there are some very interesting consequences of that, which are essentially the basis of the Kramers-Kronig relation. So we are basically going to show that the properties of this complex response function are such that the real part of the response function is somehow related to the imaginary part, which is generally a very non-intuitive thing. However, if you really look at various other subjects or various other areas in physics, you do have things like this happening. As we know, amplitude and phase. This is something, amplitude. If I think of a complex amplitude that has the real part and the complex part, the real part is basically like a displacement, and the complex part is the phase. But then, of course, one leads to the other. They are kind of interrelated with each other. And what we understand is these are basically linked by some kind of a Fourier transform. And as we said, this has a lot of importance in physics in general, in physical systems, in experimentally measurable physical systems, where if I have information of one of these aspects, and I can actually know about the other. That is very important. And here, of course, we are dealing with how a material responds to light. And there are two things. I'm sort of repeating this continuously so that you guys sort of get this sort of embedded in you. I think repetition at the cost of redundancy is not a waste here. So what basically happens is that a system, when you excite it with light, the response is nothing but the refractive index, and the refractive index has a real part and an imaginary part. The real part has to do with how fast light moves in it, which is what we learn in conventional, when you learn conventional optics, there's only the real part that you kind of care about. But then another part is very much there, that is the complex part, which is something that is very interesting. So I think as you start physics, you always hear of refractive index, and you also know that materials absorb light, emit, all that. The fact that both are kind of absolutely related, that is something, of course, you do not really learn in your undergrad, teaching of physics. But of course, we see here that they are manifestations of the same response of the system, a general response of the system to incident light. So the real part, again, it deals with through transmission or velocity and or propagation of light, whereas the real imaginary part corresponds to the absorption of light. So what we saw in the last class, we wrote down a lot of properties. So like this weight factor is basically the sort of response of the system. And this is in time domain, this is in frequency domain. I gave you a very simple thing to prove. So I hope all of you have done it. And this is another simple thing that we had derived earlier. And we can also understand that this will all finally apply to this thing called susceptibility, which is basically medium. It leads to a polarization of the medium when you have an incident electric field E, right? So now let us go forward and let us actually, do the dispersion relations, as we call them. Uh,
Hello.
yeah.
So when you say linear response,
Huh?
so how this linear response is same as saying directly proportional?
Typically, you can say, so, I mean, directly proportional is, yeah, I mean, when we say something is proportional to
So,
something, typically,
so directly
huh,
proportional can imply linearity, but linearity cannot imply
exactly,
other way around.
exactly,
There can
very,
be a
absolutely right.
constant.
You
There
can
can be
be have,
constant factor.
huh, it can be
There, the,
minus as well, right?
no,
It
as
can
in
be,
like y equal to mx plus c. अगर है, then y is not directly proportional to x. There is a
correct.
constant
There
c
is a
factor,
constant factor,
but
exactly.
there is linearity.
There is linearity, and also interestingly, if you have something like y equal to minus, negative or something, so then one increases, the other actually goes in the other direction. So that also is like proportional, but it is linear as well. But whether you call it proportionally increasing is not something that is immediately understood. So as Anirudh said, so it is not necessarily directly proportional. There may be a constant, and also the direction may not be clear. It may be positive, negative, anything. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one is why. What is special about this step function? Why you have introduced it? Can we use
Step,
some other function?
step function, mane, what step function?
So in the starting of this causality,
Mhm.
you introduce a step function. I
Oh,
think
that was
yeah,
the first class, first notes, no?
yeah, yeah. So means
Let's see. Uh, no, not here, no?
yeah, back.
Here? No, not
No, sir.
here. Here,
Yeah, a little back. Yeah,
this
next.
one.
Yeah.
Sir, I think he's talking about the theta.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. So theta, mane, it was the last one, no? Oh, that Heaviside function, Heaviside function.
Yes, sir.
Heaviside function. So that is basically to, again, that is very crucial. Oh, Bapre, that is very super crucial, right? So does anyone in the class want to answer this? Why we thought of that Heaviside function? Why is that necessary? What does the class feel?
So, so what I thought is, see,
Huh.
you want a causality, means basically
Mm,
after, if you assume a reference frame to
mm,
start at time t equal to 0,
mm.
so the effect would be after t greater than 0. Okay.
Yes,
So
exactly.
in order to have it, and the Heaviside function is like,
Mm.
if you assume t less than 0, it turn out to be
False,
0, and t
exactly.
greater than 0, it turn
Yes,
out to be 1.
yes, yes.
But there are other function also having the same what's say structure. Example means signum function, as you can take. So means, is there, can we use it? I didn't prove it, I'm
Signum
just
function is
asking.
-1 in negative
Yeah,
values.
yeah, see, it doesn't matter what you put before t less than 0. So means what I'm saying is, so the most important point for this step function is t greater than 0. Before
Yes.
it, what happens, it do not cares.
Hmm.
So can we use
Yeah, so
signum?
basically, see, sine
No, do not
function.
cares. No, do
Ah,
not cares when that is zero. That's why we do not care. Means theta t has to be zero. Means that
yeah.
function has to be zero. So t less than zero. If there is some negative part or something, then the function will not be zero, na?
Yeah, so no, so
So how
signum
can
function
you use the
typically,
other?
Anand. So the
Yeah.
signum function typically is something which has a value also at x less than 0, typically.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, it has a
So
-1 value.
that is
Right.
not something we want,
Yes,
right?
then you
That is
cannot use, na?
crucial. You cannot use that. So here
Okay.
we are basically saying that if it is only valid for x greater than 0, other things it's all 0. So
Okay.
signum function is something which is, again, because it has a finite value at x less than 0,
Your causality thing
that
is
is broken,
breaking.
right? So you absolutely cannot use that. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Causality, how, I mean, it didn't broke, by the way. So anyway,
No,
means I
no,
think.
No,
no.
didn't.
The reference frame, you
Yeah.
cannot fix the
You
reference
cannot have,
frame, right? So
correct,
you have
correct, right?
value at t less than. So
Yes.
how
Which
can
is your
you
reference then? I mean,
how can you
you have to keep
formulate?
on flitting about, right? Because you
Okay.
basically want to define an absolute frame where things are happening only after, so the event follows a cause.
Okay.
Definitively. So I cannot keep on going to, then this becomes nonsense actually, right? So the whole,
Okay, sir.
you have to choose a function depending on the physical reality that you're trying to probe. Na? So here you
Okay.
give a current, you get a voltage. And as we discussed, things like what happens if there are, things like temperature, temperature dependence, or all kinds of things where there is memory in the system, basically. So it kind of remembers what happened before. And things like light-driven resistors, and also there are many, many other things. So it's not just closing a switch which causes things. It has, so yeah, I mean, a decay, having a capacitor, all kinds of things, especially basically are affecting the system before you have closed the switch in the circuit, right? So that and all are not things which will sort of work here. It is
Okay.
clearly something, electric field gives rise to a polarization. That is it. Nothing
And we
else.
have assumed that time always moves in forward direction,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
That is critical. Okay,
Okay.
that is critical. So let us just start the very, very well known dispersion relations, as they are called. And so again, this part is very much mathematical, but I think the mathematics is very nice. So here, again, we will basically show that you speak the language, the physics speaks the language of math in order to understand things that happen in nature. So this part that we, so again, remember what I am trying to do is trying to establish a relationship between the real imaginary parts of my susceptibility, refractive index, whatever we have, which describe how light affects a medium, light affects matter. Okay, so what we are going to do at the moment, so this is again somewhat related to what we did in that when we showed that the velocity of light or the signal can only generate can only happen at velocities less than c, where we just took that, we assumed the upper half of the complex plane, and we said that, then we of course showed that unless you have time-like regions, you cannot solve, you cannot get solutions for a pulse of or a light pulse which has many, many frequencies, right? So we just randomly started saying that, okay, let us consider the upper half of the complex plane, and let us see if there are any solutions for the wave packet, like that. So here I will again write something which you might consider a bit arbitrary, but you will have to bear with me, because after some time you will realize that we are actually going to hit the expressions that are present, that we have for your susceptibility, basically the dielectric function. Okay, so I will just ask you at the moment to consider this integral some g omega d omega over omega minus omega 0, and I kind of evaluate this in the complex plane over a certain contour. Now you can ask, where did this suddenly come from? Okay, so remember what we were doing, the susceptibility factor, what is the denominator there typically? This part, what does it become? Yeah, what is the denominator for susceptibility, etc.?
Means
So,
omega naught square minus omega square.
Correct, absolutely. So basically the square of this. Okay, some omega square minus omega naught square, there's a gamma, gamma, everything. But I am not doing that. I'm starting straight with this. And you will see, however, that we will go to a thing where we absolutely will be able to relate the susceptibility with what we are going to get from here. But at the moment, I'm asking you to consider this integral. This is interesting. And why is this interesting? Because you can say that, see, again, as we showed that g, the omega, this is analytic in the upper half plane that we showed. But then here, there is one problem, because this case, the pole actually lies on the real axis. The pole actually lies on the real axis. So we have to, as we do typically, sort of climb above the singularity, right? So this is, again, let me just state that the problem here, problem with this integral is that the pole lies on the real axis. That's right. But your G omega is analytic in the upper half of the complex plane. Okay, so what do we do? So obviously we'll use the residue theorem. So how does the thing go? So if I draw this real and imaginary axis, then basically you have, say, so the pole is somewhere. So if I say that this is my real part of omega, say this is my omega real part, and say this is my omega imaginary part. Let me write this properly. So the pole lies somewhere at here, at some omega 0, right? So obviously what I will do, and you know this quite well, that I will basically have my contour. If I just do this, I just draw this, I will basically have, I will just draw this thing over here, and I will just do this and go here, right? Just jump over the pole here. I said that, say this is minus r to plus r, and I say that this, okay, this is scrappy. Let's say that the pole is somewhere here, 0. We say that this radius is something like a, and I say that this contour is c. This is the whole thing. This is where I'm evaluating it, and this is some c dash, and the way I traverse, of course, is like that, then like this, and like that, right? So this is, so the c is my total contour, the curved part, that is, this is the total thing, right? And I know that from my residue theorem, let me write this properly, from my residue theorem, very clearly, this omega minus omega 0, obviously 0, right? Because there are no poles in this contour. I've just bypassed it like this, right? So now what should I do? I want to, remember, I want to evaluate finally when I want to do all these, stuff with, these frequencies, when I actually will evaluate this in real space and all, I will, real, coordinates and all, I will basically integrate this from minus infinity to infinity, right? So obviously the thing is, my actual intention, of course, is to integrate from minus infinity to infinity, which is I'm going to look at it over all ranges of frequencies. Of course, we saw that real, your negative frequencies don't exist and all. That is fine. We'll again deal with those later. At the moment, I'm trying to just try to solve this thing, and you know that this, obviously I can break this integral now that I have all these. I will basically write, therefore I have 0 minus infinity to omega 0 minus a, g omega d omega omega minus omega 0 plus over the contour c dash. I'm writing everything properly so that there is no issue later on. Then of course I will go from omega 0 plus a, that is omega 0 plus a, to infinity, g omega d omega omega minus omega 0, and finally I want to integrate over this this thing. Okay, so this I should write as c2. This is actually not, this is this path. C is the total contour, right? So this is sum over C2. Then maybe I should write this as C1, not C dash. This does not look consistent. Let me write this as tricky. This is C1. And this is C1. Okay. So C2, again, the same thing. All right. Okay. So now just think of this. So suppose I say that your, so obviously this is, so you know what we do, right? We are basically going to say that this part has to be thrown out somehow. This part generally goes to 0. So how can we justify this? So suppose I say that your, now just consider the integral over C2. Okay. So now suppose I say that if suppose if your G omega is your chi of omega, then what is the nature of chi of what is the nature of chi of omega as you go to very, very high frequencies? For very large omega, how does it behave? Huh? Remember, guys, what happens when you have very, very large values of omega? So that goes as this one, no? This is what we saw many times, right? This is what we had, right? When we have very large omega, then you typically have this thing go to, it behaves as omega p squared by omega square, right? Because there is omega 0 square and underneath and all, and you can basically just neglect all that. This is much larger. So this basically goes as 1 by omega square. This is clear, right? This part, which obviously tends to 0 for omega tends to infinity. This part, no problems, right? Typical. This is we have done before as well, right? That we saw that only the real part exists and all that. The whole thing typically goes to 0 for very, very high omega. Right? So then what happens is, therefore, very clearly, and this is fine because this radius is what I'm going to blow up, right? This is what I want to go to in infinity. I'm finally trying to, my interest is basically this chap, right? So therefore, we need to evaluate only this one. This is the only thing that we really have to. This is the only thing that we need to evaluate, right? So now, so this is what we have to think of, right? So and very clearly you can see that this part and that part, basically we can, sort of you add that, you can okay, so so what the way we kind of go about this is, so this is not difficult to sort of try to evaluate, but what is important is finally we need to go from minus infinity to infinity g omega d omega. That is the main target. Okay, in which case we basically need to have this a tending to 0, right? So that is the main kind of thing that we have to do. Okay.
And sir, this means when for high omega values, the chi omega should there should be a minus sign, right?
That is okay. Yeah, that probably is right. It goes as, I think, omega squared. No, but there's a whole square, no?
Means no. The expression was omega p square divided by omega naught square minus omega square.
No, but it's whole square, right?
Not whole square, sir.
Oh, it was just maybe, yeah. But it goes as this. It's okay. I mean, I don't really care about negative. It finally goes to 0. Okay. Anyway, so what I need to finally do here is to evaluate at a tending to 0. That is the crucial part. Okay. And for this, there is this concept of principal value of a complex integral. Okay. So that I will sort of, okay. So the one very simple thing that people do is for, so remember we are trying to just this, let me just write this down. If I just write this down again, g of omega d omega minus omega 0. So what I will try to do, so basically we are going to just take omega minus omega 0 as some a e to the I phi. The moment you do that, so can you tell me what this will become then? So this is d omega, will be basically I
a phi d phi.
No, I phi e d. This is just d phi, yeah. Right. So then this will become what? This integral will become what? Can somebody tell me? So this part will basically so this so the limits are interesting. Okay, what will be the limits? So remember my contour. Let me just draw the contour again. The contour was something like ऐसा करके ऐसा. Then we sort of did this. So this was right, and this one is a. This is a, right? So this is your C1. I'm going over this one, right? So what will this limit be? And now I'm going from to phi, right? So I'm basically going from here to here. So what will the limit be? 0 to pi. 0 to pi. Very good, very good. Pi to 0.
Yeah, pi to 0.
Pi to 0, right? Pi to 0. अच्छा, तो अंदर क्या होगा बोला?
I g omega d phi.
I
g omega d phi.
G को we will now correctly write. This will become basically omega 0 plus a e to the I phi d phi.
Yeah.
Just this, no? Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Acha, now my thing is essentially to let a go to 0. Acha, so here I will just write down, I will just share with you this so this thing. So this book, they don't write anything. This Greiner and all, if you see, they just write this down. So I'm going to not do that. I'm going to, oh, wow. Oh, I have to go to here and do. Okay, let me just expand this. Oh shit, man, let me just paste again. Okay, so this is directly taken simply from wiki, but I think it's important. So basically what it says is that this integral value, or if what x plus ry, xy belongs to R, pole on a contour, define, and with a pole on contour C, define this thing on the same contour, again exactly this thing. Exactly this, around pole has been removed, provided the integral of another thing. This is crucial. This is basically exactly what we have. Right? Exactly what we have. Okay, so now what I observe is that Greiner basically says, but that's actually same. So now you can understand very okay. So what did we have? We basically had something like minus infinity 2 omega 0 minus a this function, this blah 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 whatever this function d omega omega minus omega 0 plus again this infinity omega 0 plus a to infinity, the same thing, this thing. And so basically we can now say that is equal to minus of this guy, right? Minus of I g of omega 0 plus to the this is pi to 0 I phi d phi. This is what we can say, na? So now basically if I now just take this a tending to 0, so basically we need to take a tending to 0, right? And that is exactly the principal value, right? So basically a tending to 0 mane I can actually write this is nothing but this. Oh, minus I g of omega 0 plus a to the minus e to the minus phi d phi pi to 0, right? And p mane hocche, this is basically, so p means essentially p implies a tending to 0, right? So what will be this a tending to 0? What is the value of this integral? Tell me. A tending to 0, what is the value of this integral? So basically, okay, let me write this phi properly. So this is just g omega 0 d phi.
Yes.
G omega 0 is a constant. So basically, this is nothing but g omega 0 into pi. Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So we have this as nothing but I pi g of omega 0. Correct? A minus sign hai yahan pe, minus minus cut plus. Right? So this is finally the crucial relationship that we want. This is given by the principal value of minus infinity to infinity g of omega d omega omega minus omega 0. And yeah, so I will just write this slightly in a better way, and I will, oh god, this is too small. Oof, this thing is so difficult to control now. Yeah, so let me write down the famous Kramer's Kronig relation, that is basically g of some omega 0 is minus of I pi principal value of minus infinity to infinity g of omega d omega divided by omega minus omega 0. This is very, very crucial. Okay, and this is extremely important, and this is fantastic. This is not just limited to optics. I don't know, are you sort of is there any plan to do this in your condensed matter? Let me just rub this. Is horrible.
No, sir. This thing is done in that quantum many-word course.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you will
Otherwise,
be
no
doing
course.
this, but if you do this, whoever teaches you will have some, you know, some kind of help, because I think there will be, you know, you will actually have at least looked at it in this course. I think your instructor for that course is going to thank me. Anyway, so let us now see, our main target for today is to finalize these relationships. Finally, we want, remember, our target is somehow to relate this with the dispersion of epsilon, chi and all that, right? Susceptibility, dielectric function, basically the dielectric function. Okay. Now remember, we have still not written imaginary real kuch nahi likha. Okay. So let us, so what is g omega? G omega is nothing but, there is a real part of g omega, and so if you just write complex g omega, there is a real part and there is an imaginary part. So I write this as some, maybe I write this as some g1 of omega plus I of g2 of omega. See, again, this is the crucial thing. We are not trying to get the relationship between, because it's quite fantastic, right? Let us see how it goes. I think some of you are going to understand, already understanding what's going to happen, right? So let us do this very beautiful. So let us just write this explicitly, what we did in the last step. So minus I pi principal value of minus infinity to infinity. This is now 1 of omega plus I g2 of omega. Anywhere you don't understand, immediately stop me, please. I cannot see your eyes. I don't know whether you're sleeping or whether you're doing, listening properly. Okay, can we straight understand what is going to happen? What is this? G1 omega 0? What is it? Huh? Oh,
Sir, the pi should be on the denominator, I
oh,
guess.
sorry. This is basically I by pi, no? Huh?
Minus I by pi, I guess.
No. I.
Right? This is correct. Acha, did I write it correctly in the last one? Oh shit. This one, did I write properly?
Yes, sir. It was correct.
This was correct? Let me just check here. I don't trust I am very, very careless.
That was 1 by I pi in the.
I did it correctly, no? Minus I pi. Okay. Oh. Hey, this is correct.
No.
Yeah, this is also wrong. See, nobody told me. So Kramers-Kronig relation is wrong, Lika. What, yeah? You are making me write a wrong Kramers-Kronig relationship. Rohan, you should have told me here. Ish, horrible.
That's what I was figuring out, but then you changed
figuring
the
out.
slide.
Ish,
No, you
Very
just
bad,
changed
very
the whiteboard, so
I
couldn't
know. No, but you should have told me, no, sir. You wrote the Kramers-Kronig wrong. It's all very embarrassing, no? Oh. Arey yaar, why is it not moving? Okay. Check. Oh, shit. Hey, where did the new one go? Oh, this one. Okay. Shucks, I thought the whole thing disappeared. Guys, if I write wrong, please tell me. My carelessness in writing these things is a legend, actually. Okay, but it's good. It's always tells me whether my students are awake or not. Okay, so G1 is what? G1?
Minus 1 by pi.
Hey, minus 1 by pi kahan? G1 minus.
It's
minus I and I.
Okay. G1, sorry.
G1.
G2 omega. G2 by omega minus
already हो गया. हमारा काम हो गया, right? This is real part, this is imaginary part. Done. And what is G2?
Minus 1 by pi.
Minus 1 by pi nahi. I by pi.
No, right? I will.
What? I can't cancel, no?
No, it will cancel.
I will.
I will cancel. You're right. Obviously, I will cancel out. Yes, correct. Yes, I will cancel out. Minus 1 by pi principal value. Yeah, this I, right? You guys, you understand, no? There is an I here. Minus infinity to infinity. G2 of omega. D omega. Omega minus omega 0. Fantastic. Okay, now what is the problem here?
G1, I think.
I'm getting so excited now. That's why I'm making mistakes. This is a very fantastic thing, actually. G1 हाँ अभी प्रॉब्लम क्या है यहाँ पे बोलो there is a big problem still what is the problem I mean, we cannot go to sleep we cannot say okay done and dusted घर जाते हैं there is a problem we can't leave it like this
Sir, we have written negative frequencies on this.
very good we need to eliminate the negative frequencies right and what obviously we will again use our favorite crossing relationships right so let us proceed g1 of omega 0 let us write 1 by pi principal value minus infinity to 0 g2 of omega minus omega 0 d omega plus principal value of whole thing right so this is 0 to infinity g2 of omega d omega minus omega 0 put omega 2 minus omega only for this is my इसको ठीक करना होगा right इसको हटाना होगा ठीक से so basically if I do that let me make this smaller good so consider put in okay letter in let me call this as in the minus infinity to 0 integral okay so what do we get iska kya hoga fir this one then becomes so ye basically this will become infinity to 0 right and यहाँ पे एक माइनस आ जाएगा राइट माइनस इंफिनिटी टू 0 g2 ऑफ माइनस ओमेगा डी ओमेगा को अच्छा ये नीचे क्या हो जाएगा दिस विल बिकम माइनस ओमेगा 0 ये डी ओमेगा मैं निकाल दिया राइट ठीक है सो दिस विल बेसिकली बिकम योर 0 टू इंफिनिटी g2 ऑफ माइनस ओमेगा डी ओमेगा minus of omega plus omega 0 right hey अगर मिस्टेक किया प्लीज बी अलर्ट अच्छा ये माइनस let us go along okay अच्छा now very crucial steps अच्छा now your if I just consider you know that g omega the crossing relationship basically is this na right this is the crossing relationship है ना तो इसको अगर एक्सपेंड करते हैं क्या आएगा सो ओमेगा जी ऑफ ओमेगा 1 प्लस आई नो ऐसा नहीं सो बेसिकली यू हैव g1 अरे दो इसको रख करो सो इट मींस दैट g1 ओमेगा
g स्टार माइनस ओमेगा
सॉरी क्या सब लिखा राइट g स्टार minus omega so this one omega basically is g1 star minus omega minus I g2 star minus omega right this is what is going to happen है ना so from here what can we write and you know that the real part माने तो वो same होगा right so basically this means that your g1 of omega is equal to g1 of minus omega and g2 of omega is basically minus of g2 of minus omega hey correct can we write this
yeah why there is no star
no so basically yeah so you know when I do actually minus I can
no then those are real na so the star is
correct so basically the moment I put this as imaginary this one becomes real
okay yeah
right okay so okay this will become too small now okay let me go to the next page no I don't know let us basically just write thing important to write in one page this is okay so then what will this become So I will basically have, if I put this here, a minus, okay, this will become plus. Is that clear? So basically a integral mein I had this as minus. Okay, so this will basically become plus. So basically this step I can write as, ye dekh lo, very crucial. Tell me if I'm making any mistake. P of G2 omega d omega plus omega 0. This is, both are same, 0 to infinity, G2 of omega d omega minus omega 0. ये ठीक है ये step? By P, both are P. Okay, just like this. Oh. Oof. 1 by pi P. Is this fine? Guys, everybody, please.
Yes, sir.
This is fine, na? So all kitna log hai abhi? 22. All 22 of you, please tell me this is fine. This is fine. Very, very crucial. This is, I have almost done it. Oh, but I cannot write this here. Let me just continue. Okay, again, let me write. So we had G1 of omega naught equal to 1 by pi principal value 0 to infinity G2 of omega d omega by omega plus omega 0 plus 0 to infinity. I can take G2 omega common, right? What will it become then? Tell me the answer of this. Answer क्या होगा इसका?
2 times omega into G2 upon omega square minus omega naught.
Perfect. Oh. इसको, I don't need this bracket. 0 to infinity omega G2 of omega d omega square minus omega 0 square. Fantastic, right? This is completely now in the form that we wanted. Tell me what this is going to be. Can you tell me what this will be? This one? G2 of omega by the same thing?
It will be of the same form but with the minus sign, I guess.
Exactly. No, but there is a slight difference also, I think, no?
Omega 0.
Exactly. Because वो minus है ना, तो ये minus आ जाएगा उसमें. इसमें minus है, omega cancel out हो जाएगा. Very crucial. Rohan, can you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Very, very, very crucial. Omega square minus omega 0 square. This is really important. Basically, we have done it. Okay. This is a very crucial set of relationships which are completely now relatable.
Omega 0. Function of omega 0.
Oh, I know I would make a mistake. So which one? Yeah, absolutely.
G2.
Yeah, this is, thankfully it's a very small mistake. I don't have to rub. This is very, very crucial. This is clearly telling you now that your, the complex part of my susceptibility and the real part of my susceptibility are completely connected. Right? So now let us write down those relationships. We know that your, now for equating G omega to chi omega, please let us say epsilon omega. So we know that your epsilon is 1 plus chi, which means my epsilon 1 plus I epsilon 2 is 1 plus chi1 plus I chi2, which means basically my epsilon minus 1 is chi1 and epsilon 2 is chi2, right? So very clearly this means that epsilon 1 of omega minus 1 is 2 by pi principal value 0 to infinity. So typically, okay, I am continuing with what, okay, so this notation, I don't know, should we change it? So, you know, this guy, our friend Greiner writes, I think it's, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to confuse these two. So what Greiner does, let us do it. So he basically writes this as x. Okay, so he writes it as, I don't know, I think whatever. So I'm following his notation, so you guys don't confuse when you write it. Okay, so this is what Greiner writes, and your epsilon 2 of omega is minus 2 omega by pi principal value of 0 to infinity epsilon 1 x dx x square minus omega square. Very crucial. So this is basically the crux of the Kramer-Stronach relationship. This is the Kramer, not crux. This is the Kramer-Stronach relationship in optics. Okay, so let me nicely decorate it. Okay, acha. So what are the takeaways? What is the what if I just ask you guys to tell me the key takeaway from this? What would you say? One of the key takeaways.
If one of the quantity is 0, let's suppose epsilon 2, then epsilon 1 is 1.
Very good. So basically, very well said, but you said the mathematical thing. Let me write the more dramatic, I would say, physical interpretation. Only, okay, this one should be in capital letters. Only if it is absorptive. Ron, do you understand that what you said is exactly this? Ron, do you understand
Yes.
exactly?
Yes, sir.
So did the class understand what Rohan said? Huh? Class? अच्छा, class, at least some representatives. हितेश पूरा चुप बैठा है. हितेश?
Yes, sir.
समझा? ये क्या जो बोला रोहन exactly यही है.
Yes, sir. If the medium is absorptive, then epsilon 2 will be 1, sir.
Exactly. So basically what we are saying that if epsilon 2 is 0, epsilon 1 omega minus 1 is 0, which means basically epsilon 1 is 1. Right, which basically means again that your Vp is omega by k, which is just basically something like C. Right, so this is very, very, very interesting, and this is something that I don't think you could have just said if you did not know this. Okay, this is really, really nice. So okay, again, another very crucial takeaway, which is a kind of a subsidiary, is that if there is dispersion in any sort of, it may be that, just like metals we saw, right? So metals we saw that when your gamma is your, at omega is much less than gamma, when gamma is much greater than omega, we saw that your conductivity is a constant, right? It was like a DC conductivity, right? At low frequencies, we basically saw that there is no variation of frequency of your conductivity. It is constant. But at high frequencies, you basically get dispersion. So therefore, it shows that if there is any kind of dispersion at a certain frequency range, there has to be absorption, albeit in a different frequency range, which is also very, very important. Okay, let me just summarize that. And I think there we will stop for today, and we will that to happen. Let me say this is one, and the other one is if there is absorption at a certain frequency range, there has to be dispersion even at a different frequency range. Very crucial. Okay, so this is very beautiful. So I'll give you several problems on this. Some very, very cool assignments that you can actually do, where you can find out, conductivity, or very, very, very interesting things. So we will take some very simple kind of functions where, we will say, for epsilon 2, we will take different type of functions. We'll take, a delta function. That's what we're going to do in the next class. We're going to take a delta function where we're going to say that there is absorption only at a particular frequency. How does the dispersion look like? Basically, how the refractive index, or the real part of the refractive index, how does it vary? And we are going to look at different ranges, different kind of omega, very large omegas, and very small omegas. What happens? That can we sort of say, how does your suppose we say that absorption happens over so see, the problem that comes is, when you have absorption happening over a finite frequency range, so you can understand what we are saying, right? So essentially, if you give a certain functional form for this epsilon 2 or x, then you get a certain relationship for this, certain value of this, certain kind of distribution of this, I should say, certain distribution of this. So we will take some simple functional forms. And of course, in your assignments, I will give you the more complex forms, naturally. Okay. So, and we will see the extreme characteristics. So high frequency behaviors of this, high frequency and very low frequency behavior of this. Okay. So this is what we are going to do the next class. And that is, again, please, remember, this is a very, very important part of this entire discourse that we will have in this course. And please take this very seriously, because this is a learning that is going to help you in many, many other branches of physics. I mean, linear response theory is a extremely important discipline in physics. It is not elementary. I'll straight away tell you that it's not elementary at all. There are some very interesting takeaways from this, but I think this is the first really, of course, this is, ironically, or as a pun, one can say this is really complex. Of course, this whole thing happens in the complex plane. Okay, so we will stop here today. Tell me if you have any further questions. Let me make myself visible. Yeah, any questions? And everybody, of course, needs to fill up their this thing, your what is that? This thing, project, a project name, term paper by tomorrow. Okay,
Sir,
so
it has to be a larger topic, right? Like it can't be just be one single paper, because
then it becomes a bit meaningless. So no, you can take a very classic paper, and then that classic paper will have 25,000 different,
yeah, like
takeaways.
if we do take a paper, we have to also explain like the theory and all properly, not paper.
Obviously, obviously. I mean, it's a subject. I mean, basically, you're taking an area, right? Where and I really request you guys are fourth, fifth year, you're MSc now, right? So do it seriously, guys, because this is an opportunity for learning. I mean, yeah, I'm not. We are not. Most likely, we're not going to have any sort of NSEM written exams or whatever. So please, I mean, yeah, I mean, assignments. Please, I request you, if you want to learn, you have to do the assignments by yourself. You have to do it, because otherwise, just doesn't make sense. Okay, you guys have gone to the limit where cheating is not going to help you. Just not at all. Take it from me. Okay. So
apart from some people, assignments are fine, means they are doing it separately. You can
good, very good.
check
I'm very
and
happy. So,
see.
by the way, Bishwajit, I think we have to
Yeah.
look at some systematic absentees also, right? I think you
Yes,
send me a
yes,
list of
yes.
systematic absentees. Let me just, because I don't know. I mean, not doing any class is a problem. I guess really a problem. I don't know why.
No, that you have sent that link, that spreadsheet. I have sent it to you.
Oh, you've sent it to me.
You
Okay,
can
I'll take
check
a look
it.
at it. Okay, sure. I'll send an email to all
Means
of
I
the
have
people who are not.
gave you the editor or something. Then you can show.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, great. That's very nice. So you say, yeah, you have to make me editor. If you just look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So tomorrow, I know we are going to do stuff which you are going to object, seriously object. Anyway, these are things which have, so you really learn the power of approximation. We are going to do I think a bit of, won't say a lot, but yeah, there is extreme, physics is all about doing stuff which is reasonable. We're going to do a lot of it tomorrow. And I know we're going to have healthy discourse. Great. Let us meet tomorrow.